Hey, Scott from MyGrowthRings.com. Here happens to be in my dining room where we're going to follow up on two videos. Both of them had a minor number of questions, comments, and cheap shots, so we're going to combine those two together. The first one was little action on the WEN track saw, also using the Kreg track saw one more time. And the second video was on that dang stuck tapered set screw in the Shopsmith miter bar. Very frustrating moment. I'll admit that. And there were some great tips on that. But let's go to some of the questions and comments. So Don said, would you use the WEN to cut doors or thick slabs? Absolutely, as long as they are within the capacity of that saw, there's no reason that you couldn't use that. That said, it kind of goes hand in hand with the next couple comments. Tom said, I don't have a track saw, but I'm thinking of getting one. What is the benefit of the 6 1/4 over the 7 1/4 inch saw blade? Okay, it's not that the one is over the other, but let's talk about that. So here's the thing. I decided to purchase the 6 1/4 inch blade version of the WEN saw, which is pretty much the common dimension of those Festool saws that really kind of set this whole concept of a track saw on fire. Kind of the standard job saw in America, 7 1/4 inch, and we're all kind of used to using that. But I had to do some soul searching of why I wanted that saw in the first place. And the reason I wanted it is for cutting up sheet goods. I don't need it for cutting up 2-by material, construction material. I don't need it for just normal crosscuts on hardwood. I have table saws, I have a chop saw, I have lots of tools I can do that with. I want to be able to break down sheets of plywood, melamine, particle board, things like that. And if I'm doing that, I don't need a massive depth of cut. What I have here, I looked it up. So with the 6 1/4 inch blade, I am able to cut to 2 3/8 of an inch thick, which is plenty thick enough. For example, in the United States, our interior doors are about 1 3/8 thick. Our front doors are about 1 3/4 inch thick. 1 3/4 inch? 1 3/4 inch. So at 2 3/8, I got plenty of capacity if I want to do things like cutting down doors. So anyway, there is sort of an advantage of the 7 1/4 inch, and that is those blades are everywhere. They're pervasive. If you want an inexpensive blade for a saw like this, you go 7 1/4. Based on that, what I wanted was a more premium blade, a blade that would give me a great cut on veneered plywood. And I found that the options within that 6 1/4 inch range include such saws as the Festool and the Makita and so on. So I can buy a no-name blade or I can buy a premium blade, no problem in the 6 1/4 inch. So anyway, great questions. Both Tom and Don. By the way, lots and lots of thumbs up for the Festool saw. No question that it is the premium. It's the saw that others are going to be compared to. And if it weren't for their patents expiring, we wouldn't be seeing these other saws on the market. So if you got the money and you can justify the investment, you will not regret it. Great saws. Robert, who, by the way, is a channel member, thank you, Robert, says that he has a Festool. He's tried many others. There's no comparison. Dust collection is phenomenal. By the way, I've used the Festool. My employer has it, and I've played with it quite a bit, and he's right. Not only is the Festool dust extractor, their vacuum, really excellent. I mean, it does such a great job, and what's really nice about it is you plug your power tool into that, and when you pull the trigger on your saw or jigsaw or router, it automatically turns the dust extractor on. There are switches you can buy that'll do that. Yes, you can do it with any shop vacuum, but it's built in. It's just so convenient. And then the design of the tools themselves, dust collection was not a second thought. It was designed right into the tool. So yeah, Robert says this is no place to go cheap. Great if you can justify it. go right ahead. Hey, one thing about it is if you're thinking about or concerned about resale, there's no question you're going to get much more of your investment out of a Festool saw than I'm going to get from my $120 WEN saw, but I'm not terribly worried about that. Robert also says that when he uses his Festool track saw to rip on live edge walnut slabs, he uses his Oneida Dust Cobra because of the large saw chips that the blade produces. I'm probably pronouncing Oneida wrong. Let's just go with that as well. It says less clogging and so on. It says it is the sleeping giant, perfect match for Shopsmith tools. I tell you what, if you've got a 510, 520, the current Mark 7, you've got great dust chutes on that machine, and they'll work with most any dust collector. So anyway, thank you, Robert, for mentioning that. In addition to this, we have a number of people that are using options that allow them to have a straight edge that then guides a handheld circular saw. And I think far and away the leader there is the Kreg Accu-Cut. There are several others as well, but that one seems to have the most votes. James says that he has the Accu-Cut system he uses with a DeWalt circular saw. He says, I don't cut a lot of panels, so the system works well enough for me. I said well enough, but actually it works quite well, judging by the straight edge of my 4-foot level. And anyway, great comment. Thank you very much for chiming in on that. Now, we all know my buddy Tom, Woodshop Nerdery. And every time Tom posts a comment, I'll just tell you, it gets my attention. It's usually very well thought out. So what does Tom have to say? He says, I don't have a track saw, but if I encountered the need, I would get one. I like the way he thinks. He said, but to this point, for sheet goods, I have made drawings of rough cuts to take them to the hardwood store, and they rough cut for $1, which makes it easy to transport. He's also looked at something called the True Track Expandable Table System, and several people commented on this. I had to Google it to remind myself what it is, and it's actually really a very simple. It's a support system. It's like a table, but it's got they're probably 2x4s because you provide wooden pieces that are sacrificial. You mount it to these supports, and imagine a table that has an X shape to it, and that you can pull these supports out to help hold large sheet goods. Like I say, several people mentioned that they have that, and I guess the idea behind that is it takes up very little space when you're not using it. Well, I'll tell you, my Boris Centipede takes up ridiculously little space. However, that 4x8 sheet of foam takes up about 4-foot-by-8 sheet of foam's worth of space in the shop. So you guys might have a point there. So let's move on to that miter gauge set screw. What this thing is, there's a slot in the bar of the Shopsmith miter gauge, and there's a very special tapered set screw that, when tightened down, causes the bar to spread. It's done for two reasons. It's done to kind of make sure it's a good fit in the slot. There's not a lot of slop between the sides of the bar and the miter slot. But it's also used as a stop, a positioner, if you will, for lots of the functions. And a trick that was taught by Shopsmith forever is you put a piece of paper underneath the bar so that it wraps around the sides of the bar, and that way you're not having to drive that set screw in quite so deep. Basically, it's like your paper acts as a shim. And so C.T. Wheater said, did you ever show Shopsmith this problem? You didn't need to show Shopsmith this problem. They knew all about it, as I said. Bad Apple Woodworks, Tom also said, couldn't you have stuck a wedge in the slot near the tapered screw and put some pressure to spread it open a bit, then tried the hex wrench? By the way, several people mentioned a wedge. Yes, if I had the bar out, then a wedge works just fine. In the bar in the slot, though, there's no place for the bar to go, especially since it's spread by the set screw. I would say, again, back to Woodshop Nerdery, he made the suggestion and said that it happened to him once, and that he used a multi-tool, an oscillating multi-tool like the Fine or like many of the knockoffs of it since the patents have expired, to actually cut his set screw in half. I don't have that kind of patience. So, but it certainly can be done. John Rice, channel member, thank you, John, said that it happened to me. I drove a plastic felling wedge into the slot on both sides. The new tapered set screw I found on eBay from a Shopsmith owner. The replacement has a touch of never seize. Yeah, if you can put an anti-seize or any kind of a grease or even paste wax on that set screw on the bar, it's going to help. But most importantly, the paper, as simple as a solution as that is, it just works. But corrosion is always going to be a problem with bare metal parts. So keep everything well waxed and potentially lubricated. Another comment here says, is the tapered set screw included in the help kit? If you don't know about this, Shopsmith for years has made this simple little box that includes some wax and some oil and some rags and some things you probably already have, but most importantly, a little package of set screws and cap head screws and so on. And years ago, it did include the tapered set screw, but I went looking just the other day on their website, and that set screw is not mentioned. So I can't say for sure. And I do know that a few people chimed in and said that they had an old kit that it did have the set screw. Someone bought an old kit, it had that set screw. So I guess if you buy an old kit on eBay, maybe you're taking your chances, but there is a chance. But it looks like the new ones don't include it. Also, that part, I'll put the part number in the description of this video as well as the original video, since these videos become private after about a week. They're channel member only after about a week. I'll put the part number there as well. But at Shopsmith, that dang set screw is about $7 plus shipping. So maybe combine it with something else that you're ordering, or wait till there's a free shipping offer. Dave said, great video, a couple of ancillary ideas. If the Allen wrench is rounded, cut off a 1/4 inch of the end with bolt cutters and grind it square. Okay, this comment was made by several people, and they're right that if you've got a hex wrench, an Allen wrench that has got rounded corners on it, you can grind it down to a fresh spot. I don't know if you noticed that after I got that bar completely out, I even pushed my hex wrench several inches into that set screw, and it's just gone. It's just completely rounded off, and so that wasn't going to help me. I also knew that my hex wrench was pretty much brand new, so that wasn't the issue. But yeah, to all the folks that commented on that, either get yourself a brand new hex wrench or Allen wrench, or yeah, grind a little bit off so you're into some really solid meat. That said, and this is a really interesting idea from Constant Gardner. He said, says he's done a lot of this and found that before I would break out the various screw extractors, which is an option, you could use a screw extractor to get that thing out, I tried the closest size of Torx driver. That's T-O-R-X. Torx is that it looks somewhat like an Allen or hex wrench, only it's a bit more star-shaped, if you will. And commented how he can drive that in, and that the corners seem to fit the hex cavity. Might take a little tap of a mallet to get there, but that could work. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but I bet you that's true. So great tip. Appreciate you sharing that. Okay, so been traveling a bit for work, but I'm back and going to get back in the shop and get you some original content here real soon. Appreciate the questions, comments, and cheap shots. Keep them coming. And I'll see you on the next video. Make it a great day.